The bodies of six of the seven people who were killed in Gaza, the people from the charity, have now been transported to Egypt. And David Mensa, the current Israeli government spokesperson, has said that there's a genuine sense of grief in Israel about the attack on that convoy. Well, there may be a genuine sense of grief, but that grief should then have a practical application, and Netanyahu's troops should withdraw. The situation is becoming a tinderbox, and the threats from Iran at the same time, which I'll deal with tomorrow, make the situation in the Middle East even more terrifying and more likely to spin out of control. The Israeli government is very reluctant to pull back, to follow the Biden initiative, to take advantage of this situation and retreat, get out of Gaza, admit that the Rafah siege will not take place, and cut its losses. Maybe negotiate for the release of the rest of the hostages, but not under another siege. As for the charity workers who were killed, the British government's response is quite astonishing. 3 British individuals killed, slaughtered, intentionally murdered, targeted by Israeli drones, and the British Prime Minister and members of the cabinet and observers from outside, former British Prime Ministers and so on, respond by defending Israel. Why? Why? Surely it is the job of our Prime Minister and our senior politicians to protect our people abroad. That's what's in the passport, isn't it? Not to defend the people, not to defend the country that killed them. I think this will still nevertheless be a turning point in the war. But it's not about putting on political pressure to Netanyahu to pull back. It's about putting on moral pressure to Netanyahu. And that moral pressure should have been applied long ago. It's not about the number of deaths. One death is sufficient. One death is enough. And one death is too many. It's about whether or not this was ever a justified manifestation of defense. And I don't think it was. I think Israel has every right and had every right to defend itself from an attack, and a terrorist attack is an attack. And because it came from a state ruled by a particular terrorist organization, that state, Gaza, was open to some form of reprisal. But this wasn't the way forward. This was never the best approach. The only way the hostages were ever going to be released was by negotiation and by the weight of disapproval from the neighboring Arab states. Without that, this was an action that was doomed to failure, and so it has proven. 6 months down the line, it has proven to be a disastrous military undertaking. The only thing that is in its favor is it keeps Netanyahu in power as a war prime minister. And I'm afraid it's probably in his interest to keep that war going if he wants to retain power, because he must know that the moment he steps down from power, he will be dragged into court, he will be forced to explain his decisions, and the future looks a little bleak for him. But that's an area for him to negotiate. The longer he holds on, the less chance there is that he can retreat into a private life and a life in the shadows, away from the storm that he's created. This will haunt him, and he will go down in history as the man who wrecked the reputation of Israel. It's a sad, sad legacy.